Hello, dear. Has Putin betrayed Russia and has dragged himself into a trap? This and other topics we will discuss right now on the air of YouTube War and Politics 24. My name is Irina Uzlova and I am happy to join our conversation Michael Sheitelman, political strategist. Michael, congratulations. Thank you for joining. Glad to see you.
Hi, Aaron. Thank you.
Armed forces of Ukraine are achieving their objectives in Kursk region, and we have more additions to the exchange fund. Commander-in-Chief for the Ukrainian Armed Forces, Alexander Syrsky, briefed Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on the situation at the front lines. Among other things, Ukraine cuts off Russian troops by destroying last third bridge in Kursk region. But, you know, Putin seems happy making foreign visits to places where he cannot yet be put behind bars for kidnapping Ukrainian children and enjoying life in Azerbaijan, having fun without a jacket and in informal atmosphere. Can we state, Michael, the fact that now both the Russian army and Putin himself are trapped, and why Putin is still not looking for a way out of our incursion and remained silent for 2 weeks regarding the Ukrainian offensive in the Kursk region?
Yeah, really, this visit to Azerbaijan by Mr. Putin, it is very interesting, and there's a lot of conspirology around that, because Azerbaijan is not a Russian ally. This is not one of Russian ally countries like Belarus, for example. Because in this situation, when Ukrainian forces invaded to Russian territory, it was logical, for example, to ask help from Belarus or to ask help from other Russian allies from their military union. But Azerbaijan, it is not. Azerbaijan was in war in Armenia till the last time, and Russia was on the side of Armenia. So Russian forces, also Russian troops, were situated in Azerbaijan territory, in Karabakh, till last year. Just a couple of months ago, Russian forces left Azerbaijan.
Yep.
So obviously, all of these conversations with President Aliyev, president of Azerbaijan, it is not about war. It is something about economy, about selling gas or oil or something, because Azerbaijan is one of biggest suppliers of gas to Europe now. They supply gas from Caspian Sea via pipeline of gas pipeline through Caucasus and Turkey to Europe, and partly Azerbaijan is replaced Russia on the European market. So I believe that all of these meetings, they are mostly about this issue, about the issue of gas and oil. And this is very strange time for this. This is very strange time.
Yes.
Another strange thing about this visit, it is that this visit is surprise, like not planned. Usually, Putin's office, they announce visits like that a couple of months ahead. For example, last month, no, it was in May or June, Mr. Putin went to Vietnam, and it was announced a couple of months ahead. But not now. Now we knew about this visit just 2 days before the visit itself. So maybe it's somehow connected to the situation in Moscow. I believe the situation, political situation in Moscow now, it is situation with very tension situation around Mr. Putin's office. Because everybody waits from Mr. Putin some reaction to Ukrainian incursion to Kursk region. But there is no reaction, in fact.
At all, no reaction.
At all, yeah. And probably Mr. Putin wants to wait some time. It is his manner, his usual manner, to wait some time and to see if maybe somehow this crisis will resolve itself without Mr. Putin, without Mr. Putin participation. He did that in a lot of situations. For example, last year, a year ago approximately, there was the coup d'etat by Prigozhin, Mr. Prigozhin, who was the chief commander of private army Wagner Group, and this coup d'etat almost succeed. And forces of Mr. Prigozhin, they went from the front line in Ukraine to Rostov region in Russia, and afterwards almost they got to Moscow.
Yes.
And Mr. Putin, he just left Moscow and kept silence. He kept silence during all of this coup d'etat. The
But-
same situation now. And more of that. Yesterday, we heard Mr. Lukashenka, who is self-proclaimed president of Belarus.
Yes.
And he appeared like the spokesman of Mr. Putin. You know, because he said, okay, everybody asked why Russia does not use nuclear weapon, for example. And he gave an answer from Mr. Putin. Yeah.
Yes.
But during all of this, let's say, crisis in Kursk region, almost 2 weeks, we never heard also official spokesman of Mr. Putin, Mr. Peskov.
He's
He
absent more than 2 weeks. Maybe he
Yeah,
has
more
holidays
than 2 weeks.
Holidays.
More than 2 weeks.
in Crimea.
You can't imagine when
In
some
such situation,
foreign army invaded Russia,
occupy territory.
occupied part of Russian territory, more than 1,000 square kilometers.
Yeah.
And during all of these 2 weeks, spokesman of Kremlin, the main spokesman, the only spokesman of Kremlin, just not in his place. Nobody know, in vacation. Now he is in vacation. And now Putin, not formally in vacation, but in some foreign visit. So it is very strange, let's say.
So we can say that Lukashenko nowadays is like Peskov, because really you mentioned about his speech and about his interview to Russia TV channel, to husband of propaganda journalist Skabeyeva, Yevgen Popov, or maybe somebody joked that he is like wife of Skabeyeva, this Popov. And that conversation was strange, but we understand that all these messages from Lukashenko really are like messages from Putin, and he maybe asked even Putin what he have to say in this dialogue, in this interview. So Alexander Lukashenko, the self-proclaimed president of Belarus, stated that if Russia utilized nuclear weapons, Ukraine would be very happy, because the Kremlin would no longer have any allies, and Belarus too. And Michael, how can you see about these messages? What is really hidden behind this manipulative statement by Lukashenko?
No, Mr. Lukashenko now looks like temporary president of Russia, not president of Belarus. Because all of his moves, they're like Russian moves and not Belarusian. First of all, he moved his military forces to the border with Ukraine. He said personally in this interview you mentioned, he said that 1/3 of his army now on the border of Ukraine, between Ukraine and Belarus. So in fact, Mr. Lukashenko gave military answer to Ukrainian invasion to Russia. But not only military, also political. He offered negotiation to Ukraine now, just in this interview. And also a couple of days ago, he said separately, also in this interview and in some other speech inside Belarus, he said that this is a time for negotiation, and like 3 Slavic nations, Belarusians and Russians and Ukrainians, they have nothing to have a war for, and this is just a war of United States and Europe and not our war. Something like that. This is like usual Mr. Putin rhetoric. Mm-hmm. And it looks like, okay, this is message from Moscow. Certainly, this is message from Moscow. And again, we see it second time, consequently. I mean, in the crisis of Wagner Group, which I mentioned, we had the same picture. When Mr. Putin escaped from Moscow.
Yes, and was afraid.
Yes, Mr. Lukashenko was the one who negotiated with Wagner Group head, Mr. Prigozhin.
Yes, like
and
mediator.
He persuaded Mr. Prigozhin to stop the coup d'etat and to go to Kremlin to negotiation. And now the same role, Mr. Lukashenko wants to to have the same role. Probably he wants something like Minsk III, because, in between Russia and Ukraine, there are two agreements, Minsk I and Minsk II, and there were agreements about Donbass war, which were concluded in 2014 and 2015. And now we want the next one, like continuation of these agreements. But obviously, Ukrainian government and Ukrainian people, they don't want this negotiation, and they don't want any agreement with Russia at this stage. But the same problem with nuclear weapon. Mr. Putin and all of his management, I mean the administration, I can't say this is government because this is not exactly government, this is like gang, of Putin's gang, let's say. A lot of representatives of Putin's gang, they many times, they publicly said that any, let's say, any possibility of invasion to Russian territory, the answer will be nuclear answer, nuclear bombing. And now, during these 2 weeks, we don't hear these threats from Moscow again. It is very strange, because this is happened now. We crossed the red line. Ukrainian forces, they crossed not only the Russian border, they crossed political red line. But we don't hear nothing from Moscow about that. So we hear that from Mr. Lukashenko, who said, "Oh, this is bad idea to use nuclear weapon because," as Lukashenko said, "it will be good to Ukraine." It's a good chance to Ukraine if Russia uses nuclear weapon against Ukraine. So Ukrainians will be happy. It's absolutely
something
I don't know.
Crazy,
This is something like Kafkian idea, that Ukrainians will be happy. This is George Orwell would say that, that Ukraine will be happy if Russia uses nuclear weapon against Ukraine. And the reason which brings Mr. Lukashenko is that in this case, Belarus and Russia, they will lose all of their allies around the world. But we don't have any allies. We have only North Korea and Iran.
And Belarus,
so that is all the allies of Russia and North Korea.
But maybe Lukashenko means China, for example, because we know that China all time, during all full-scale war, says that it's abnormal to use nuclear weapon in 21st century and predict Putin of this step.
Maybe, but obviously, first of all, China is not so obvious ally of Russia. We are rather neutral country. We don't help Russia. We don't supply weapon, like Belarus supply weapon to Russia, and North Korea and Iran do the same. But China, we don't supply any weapon, and more of that, China didn't join the sanction against Russia, but they follow American sanction. For example, they don't receive money to the banks, to Chinese banks, from Russian military companies. Or there are a lot of payments from Russia to China, which didn't work because of American sanctions. So China is not something like obvious ally in this case. So I believe that all of this rhetorics of Mr. Lukashenko, this is only, it is not towards Ukrainian and not towards Western people. It is towards Russians. Russians, I mean in Moscow and Russian Federation, they usually like Lukashenko. They really see somebody who is very like Putin or somebody like that. So this is the closest friend for Russian nation. And they hear it like, okay, now we understand why Putin does not use nuclear weapon. I am not sure if it will work, but still the idea is like that.
Dear Michael, how can you estimate does Lukashenko understand that if Putin dies in different aspects, war aspect, political aspect, lifestyle aspect, Lukashenko will die together with him?
I believe that Lukashenko has some ambitions about Russia. Really, he had a long time ambitious about being president of Russian Federation. Not only Russian Federation, but the common, like how they call it, like common state of Russians and Belarusians.
Yeah.
From formal point of view, Russia and Belarus, they have the joint confederation. This confederation doesn't work really, but they have an agreement about this confederation. And in the 90s, then Mr. Yeltsin, the first president of Russia, of independent Russia, left his position. So Lukashenko had a dream to be the president of something like joint state. And I believe, and we are watching for Lukashenko many times, yeah, 30 years.
So yeah, yes.
You know, what is he's very ambitious guy in politics. So why, if something happened to Putin, why not to be like compromise figure, compromise person, Mr. Lukashenko? And in the case then Mr. Putin die physically or politically, and many groups will have a fight inside Russia, inside Moscow, inside Kremlin, for being the authority of Russia, yeah? So maybe they will call Lukashenko to be something like compromised figure on the top of Russia and Belarus together, and Belarus together. So I believe that he has this idea till now.
And it seems to me that Russian citizens will be happier to see Lukashenko and not Putin.
I can't say that because I didn't see any polls about comparison between Lukashenko and Putin. It is obviously banned to Russian pollster agencies to make this comparison, because nobody knows it will be how it will be good to Lukashenko or to Putin. Obviously, he is positive hero to Russians, but to compare ratings, it is impossible now.
Okay, so you mentioned about negotiations, and the Times mentioned about it too in this case. If Putin doesn't make concessions and refuses to negotiate, Ukraine will have no choice but to stay in the Kursk region of the Russian Federation and move further through Russian territory, writes the Times. But we understand with you and to all our viewers, all active people in the world, that Putin will never make any concessions. In fact, last week we discussed like he disowned the possibility of negotiations. Am I right?
Okay, that phrase from Mr. Putin that he is not going to negotiate with terrorists about Ukrainians, yeah, he said, or with somebody who hits civilian objects in Russia or something like that, or somebody who make a threat to nuclear station in Russia. Well, this is just a gesture. It is not any reality. Mr. Putin is absolutely ready to negotiation. And he sent a lot of messages to Ukraine and to United States, first of all, and to European Union that he is ready to negotiation. Obviously, he is ready to negotiation. But I don't believe that now Ukraine is the good position to negotiate, because Ukraine needs more territories, more Russian territories, and Ukraine needs to make more losses to Russian army.
Yeah.
Because at this stage, Putin is not ready to leave Ukrainian territory. Obviously, he is not ready to leave all the Ukrainian territory, including Crimea, for example, and Donbass. He wants more and more Ukrainian territories. And in Ukraine, the people of Ukraine, they don't support any territorial compromise with Russia. Any, just any. So not president of Ukraine, Mr. Zelensky, not government. They can't offer this deal with Russia about territories, obviously. So the plan is not to negotiate. The plan, really, like Time mentioned, the plan is to hold this Russian territory how long it is possible. and to make Russia to withdraw troops from Ukraine to this new front line inside Russia. And this is the reason why Ukrainians, that you mentioned in the beginning of our broadcasting, you mentioned that Ukrainians bombed 3 bridges in Sime River. This is the river called Sime inside Kursk region. And this river is in fact like natural new border or natural new front line will be between Russia and Ukraine. And in case that this operation will succeed, if this river, so Ukraine will control more 700 square kilometer more than Ukraine holds now of Russian territory. So in total, it will be around 2,000 square kilometers. It is like Syria's territory. So I believe that the plan of Ukrainian forces now is just to spread the war to more and more Russian territories, to other regions, not only in Kursk region, but to other regions as well. Because as far as we know, last week continues the fights not only in Kursk region, but also in Belgorod region, where Ukrainian forces they try to come inside Belgorod territory through border control point. I don't remember the name of this border control point, sorry. Kolotilovka, this is the name of this village inside Russia, and where the fights between Russian troops and Ukrainian troops around this Kolotilovka in Belgorod region. So I believe that Ukraine will try to invade 2 more regions, Belgorod region and Bryansk region.
Yes, and now we see that we know, all of us, we know this phrase that dreams tend to be implemented. So Ukraine's operation in Kursk Oblast aims to weaken Russia and establish buffer zone. Ukraine's main goal is to weaken Russia and carry out counter-attack operations. We say about this, and Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky agree with us, with me and with you, Michael. So a buffer zone in Russia, Kursk Oblast, will help protect Ukraine's border communities from relentless shellings. Putin wanted a buffer zone. We can remember about it. Nowadays, Putin got a buffer zone, but with one difference: on his territory. Yes?
Yeah, in this case, if Mr. Zelensky says the truth, because in this case, I'm not sure that this is the truth, because in this case, in this speech, Mr. Zelensky spoke not like a president of Ukraine, but as chief commander of Ukrainian military forces. And as a chief commander of Ukrainian military forces, he also part of intelligence service. So I'm not sure that this is the truth. But if, let's say this is the truth, that the real goal is the buffer zone and security zone inside the Russian Federation, so in this case, we need the strip during all the border between Russia and Ukraine, which will be 40 kilometers deep. Because the Russian artillery has the range of 40 kilometers, and Russian, multi-launch rocket systems, we also have only 40 kilometers deep. Because our system, HIMARS, they have 80, 90 kilometers, but Russian, they have only 40 kilometer distance, 40 kilometer range. So 40 kilometer strip, it will be enough.
Okay. We'll see in this case. U.S. Senator Mark Kelly believes Ukraine's decision to strike inside Russia could be a game changer in the ongoing conflict. Politico reported about it. Will the director of war change the permission from our Western allies, the United States, Great Britain and France together, to strike at legitimate military targets on the territory of the aggressor state of Russia with long-range weapons, and why this permission is still not available? Michael.
Yeah, it is a really game changer. We see that this is game changer.
Yes.
First of all, we see it from the media, from Western media. Every day, we see a lot of articles, a lot of reports on TV reports about our war. And last time we saw so many reports from our war, it was in 2022, 2 years ago. Afterwards, the public was tired from our war, and we were not in the center of, not in the center of agenda, news agenda. But now we are again in the news agenda.
Yes.
And really, one country after other, they say us, okay, you can use our weapon inside Russia. Just a couple of hours ago, Denmark Prime Minister said this that we can use the weapon from Denmark inside Russia. And what it means, that we can use inside Russia F-16. Because half of F-16 we have from Denmark. So we can use F-16 fighters. Another article we received from UK, in Sunday Times it was, the new Prime Minister of UK, he said also that we can use all the British weapon inside Russian Federation, except Storm Shadow missiles, because Storm Shadow missiles, it is not only British weapon. This is the weapon which were built by UK together with France and US. So we are waiting for this permission from France and US. But usually, if you look back to all the history of this war, 2.5 years, we can see that when one country did one step, for example, Denmark and UK, when another allies also joined the same steps. It was the same with, for example, with supply of tanks.
Leopards and Abrams.
United Kingdom started with some 10 or something or dozen of Challenger tanks, and then US
and Germany.
Abrams tanks, and then Germany with dozens of Leopard 2 tanks, and then other countries, and
together,
etc.
all together, yes. Confident decisions used together.
Yeah, the same we had with F-16 when it started from only Netherlands, and afterwards with Denmark, and afterwards Norway and Belgium, and Romania, who joined as a training base for F-16 fire pilots, and United States in our new agreement, security agreement between Ukraine and United States, also mentioned that United States will supply F-16 to Ukraine. So the same will be about the permission to hit Russian territory. Let's just wait. During 1 month, I believe we will have this permission.
1 month? Okay.
Yep.
It sounds great. Great, really great. Not great news for Putin again. The Russian army has already lost more than 600,000 soldiers killed or wounded since the start of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. So we understand that there is no price that would force Putin to stop the war and withdraw troops.
No price in human lives. Human lives, no price.
Quite right.
For my sorrow, we were very naive at the beginning of the war when we thought that, okay, when Mr. Putin will lose 100,000 people, he will stop this war, but not.
500,000, no.
After 500,000, the same. So now we see that he can lose millions of Russian lives, and it doesn't matter for him, absolutely. And it doesn't matter to Russian population, as you see. So this is not only doesn't matter for Mr. Putin, but also Russian nation. They don't do anything about that. They don't care about lives of their soldiers. But what can stop Mr. Putin is losing money, because money is more important for Mr. Putin than lives. And the third is to lose his power. This is the most dangerous for him. To lose human lives, millions of human lives, that's not important for Mr. Putin. This is not in his agenda. But to lose political power, it is very important for him. So I believe that he will stop this war. He could stop this war in theory, at least, when he will see that this war wars for him political power.
And we have near 3 minutes, but we have current important news about that topic that Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi plans to visit Kyiv on Friday, this Friday, to balance ties with Washington and Moscow. But according to people familiar with the matter, he has ruled out the role of mediator in aiding Russian-Ukrainians war. However, the country still agreed to transmit messages between Russian President dictator Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky. Bloomberg writes about it. It is his first trip to the war-torn country since its conflict, full-scale conflict with Russia, and about a month after he met President Vladimir Putin in Moscow, the day July 8, when Putin attacked Ahmadit Children Hospital in Kyiv. What are your expectations for this visit, and how can the role of India in our war look like?
I don't believe that to bring message from Moscow worth the ticket from New Delhi to Kyiv. Because there is a better ways to bring messages from Moscow to Kyiv and not via India, which is far away. No, India just wants to be like balanced in this war, absolutely balanced. And Mr. Modi, he visited Moscow in last month, I believe. He visited Moscow. And now he needs the same step towards Ukraine, because India is the ally of United States. It's not ally of Russia. And ally of United, the head of country, which is ally of United States, and which very, very depend economically and politically from United States, he can't afford to himself to visit Moscow, to visit Putin, but not to visit Mr. Zelensky and Ukrainian nation. That is the only sense of this visit. This is symbolic visit, political visit, not the peacekeeping visit, absolutely at all, and obviously not economical, visit, because you can do it without this very long day and very tough logistic issues. Yeah, so I believe this is political. And this is just to bring the solidarity with Ukrainian people, yes.
Okay. Michael Sheitelman, political strategist. I say you thank you very much, Michael, for your time and for your joining. Thank you. See you after 1 week, 4 weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye. Guys, thank you for viewing. Subscribe, please, to our YouTube channel, War and Politics 24, and Michael Sheitelman YouTube channel too. Put your likes and leave your comments. Every viewer and your opinion are very valuable to us. Take care of yourself and believe in the armed forces of Ukraine. We will win. Exactly.